Do. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Digital Dive, where we take a deep dive into digital assets. I am here today with Wyatt, the CTO of Constellation Network. How are you doing today, Wyatt?
Fantastic, and even better now that I'm here.
Oh, same here. I know I'm excited for this, and I know the community has been very excited for this one too. So, for those of you who don't know, this is the Founders Series where I interview the founders of Constellation, and I know that I think you may have been potentially the most requested founder. So I'm super excited to have you on here today, and we're going to start off with a very generic question that I've asked all the founders so far. And it's kind of like the icebreaker that we have here at the Digital Dive. And I'm just going to get right to it so we can break the ice here. And that is, Wyatt, how do you like your steak cooked?
I like it rare. Honestly, probably blue.
Blue. All right, blue. That's really interesting. I know that there were some community members that had mentioned that if any of you guys liked it, well done or something, that they would have sold all their DAGs. So,
Okay, well, glad that worked out.
I think that worked out perfectly. So, we've got some time here together, and we're going to get into a little bit more around kind of like what's the why. You've obviously built something incredibly unique, incredibly powerful here with the hypergraph network. And so we're going to learn a little bit more about you and what it's been like for you in building this incredible thing that we've all kind of gathered around. So let's start all the way at the beginning, though. So a lot of us kind of have this vision of you being this, like, like mad scientist, like mathematician vibes. And along with that comes this idea of like, endless equations on a chalkboard or various lines of complex coding. What does a typical day look like for you?
Well, every day kind of changes. I'm definitely mad and I know the science background, so I guess maybe there's some, synchronicity there, but
Right.
yeah, I'm not really writing stuff on the chalkboard. I read a lot of like white papers and a lot of research. It's a little bit different than I think most individuals, at least in the crypto space. I'm really more focused on just the fundamentals of distributed systems and cryptography,
Mm-hmm.
and so as well as higher category theory, which is a type of math that I use to model out all of our system guarantees.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty focused on those areas, and also my papers are published and being published in those spaces. Although the most recent one I'm looking more into econometrics, at least for part of it. So I still try to stay abreast of the space as a whole. But I still program a lot. I spend a lot of my time actually just sort of communicating with other members of the engineering team, and just trying to just bring everybody together on solving this stuff. I think one of the greatest privileges of this entire journey has been the ability to not just to have this dream live inside of my heart, but the hearts of many others, and working on this and building it with our blood, sweat, and tears. It's actually, it's how that it takes on a life of its own.
Yeah, absolutely. And this has been, quite the journey for you guys here. It's going on, what, 4 or 5 years now?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
The hairlines to show it.
Yeah. I mean, the last year alone, I'm sure has been, quite exciting. So you say you spend a lot of your time doing, getting involved in like more of the research and the fundamental side and how this space is evolving.
Yeah, no, totally. Really, just when you think about, well, I've always been a big believer in just sticking to your engineering fundamentals and to your roots. And the truth is, this is just one application of computer science. So yeah, I've always been really rooted in how does this actually apply to the wider realm of everything that we're building and just engineering in general, whether it's IoT and smaller devices, the big data space, hardware, etc. So really just trying to bridge. I feel like the more subsections that you can touch, I think the more real it becomes.
Right, absolutely, and I think that, it sounds like you're talking about, like, the adoption piece, right? And, like, how does this actually play out? So and I think that's something that a lot of people find really unique about this network too, is all the, very, real use cases that come out of this technology. And I know that's one of the reasons why everyone's so excited about it, is because the way that it can change the way that we, do our day-to-day life, I think is quite impressive, and will have a huge impact on the world, right? So I'm sure it's amazing being part of that on the back end with the people day to day building it.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's been in the beginning, it was along the road, but now as we're growing, I've
Mhm.
really just being able to be interactive and just, work with, I have the most amazing team in the world.
Mhm.
Shout out to all you guys. I can do a list off, but like, everybody on GitHub, just take a look. These are absolute rock stars. And, I couldn't be more proud and more, you know, um,
Mhm.
it's a privilege to be able to work with the folks that I do get to work with. I mean, I will say also just in general about adoption. I mean, like, we're all doing the best that we can and
Mhm.
see where the club fits best. But when I created this thing, I had the idea in mind to try and solve some issues that I had run into, being a data engineer or working in the
Mhm.
large scale data application space. Um, and so that's kind of really where this all was born out of. But as the original concept started to evolve from the
Mhm.
onset of building it and really creating the core fundamentals and the understanding of the different like layers. Now I
Mhm.
guess everybody knows what an L0 is and
Now, yeah.
stuff. Which I once again I don't know. I just made it up. I just try to describe stuff, and I'm glad when it sticks and seems to make sense.
Yeah.
But it's really cool how that started to take some traction, and we're starting to
Yeah.
find more and more use cases, not just from processing big data, but just
Mhm.
to actually fundamentally rewriting how the internet works, with a secure communications protocol that is decentralized.
Yeah, that I think is one of the, more crazy things to come out of this whole, crypto space. So, before we get into some more of those really key, unique things, I want to dive in a little bit more about you. So, it's my understanding that you met the team in San Francisco after college, but that's not originally where you're from. Where did you grow up?
I grew up outside of Detroit and well, kind of like half between Ann Arbor and a suburb of Detroit called Birmingham.
Mhm.
And my dad lived there, and he was a U of M grad and professor, and did that whole thing in psychology, and he was practicing psychologist too. Um, and my mom was a teacher and a
Mhm.
small business owner in the fashion space, actually.
Very
Um,
cool.
Yeah, so I split time between those spaces or those places for most of my childhood.
Mhm. Did you, come from, like, a academic background of sorts? Is that kind of, like, a way that you've, you know, been kind of, you grew up in that space a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, definitely on my dad's side.
Mhm.
I'm like the only person in my immediate family without a graduate degree, actually.
There you
But
go.
yeah, no, pretty hardcore. I like that. My grandfather was also pretty astute lawyer, and yeah, I mean, it was. I guess I didn't really realize what it was until after I left home.
Right.
But yeah, no, it was very, very intellectual
Mhm.
coming
So
upbringing.
so so then you moved to San Francisco, and is that where you went to college out there?
I went to school at a small school called William and Mary,
Mhm.
East Coast, and I moved to San Francisco right after. I didn't really have any prospects, but I just knew that this was going to be the place where I'd just figure it out.
Right.
I actually didn't meet like the founding team until several years later after I've been working for like 4 or 5 years or so. Probably like 3, 4, 5. Yeah, like 4 or 5. I think I just turned, yeah, about 4.5 or so years. Yeah, it's a long, crazy journey, but yeah, I just sort of got. I'd always been. I actually got introduced to like Bitcoin during Occupy Wall Street, and
Oh, no way.
yeah, and
Is
I
that where,
was.
is that where it all started for you, the crypto world?
I mean, I wasn't super into it per se. Like, it wasn't like, oh, this is the thing I'm gonna do. But like, it was really funny. I met up with an old college friend this summer, and he was reminding me about this like project I had called the servers were moving to, basically back everything up with some kind of like, crypto protocol in case of some type of economic or global collapse. And I
Right,
completely forgotten about it, but I was like, oh, I guess I have been thinking about this for a while. I was definitely a bit of a dreamer. I still am
right.
too, but yeah. And I mean, I always sort of followed the space,
Hmm.
and yeah.
At that time, was something like the hypergraph anywhere on your radar, or at that point were you just kind of now messing around with distributed systems and what those possibilities could have been like?
So I actually didn't really get into distributed systems until I got my first like engineering job.
Hmm.
So my focus in school was always like math and the math side of physics. I was really bad at my practical like labs classes, and so as my faithful journey as to how I became a programmer is I was so bad
Right.
collecting data for my labs that they had this unwritten rule where they would just let me write code to help either grade or like plot or do something with everybody else's data. So I just started doing a lot of like data science and machine learning,
Hmm.
to try and solve math problems in subatomic physics and quantum computing in college.
Hmm.
And then I also did that thing at NASA too. I wrote my first that was my first real engineering job. I wrote this like classifier for unification on a string of just random symbols. Um, we can talk about that later, but yeah, I got a
Yeah,
gig
absolutely.
working in machine learning and then trying to, basically in order to productionize any of these algorithms, you got to figure out how to process large amounts of data. So, got familiar with MapReduce, and I became a really early adopter of Spark, which is kind of like the next generation of Hadoop and MapReduce. And so tuning that up is really how I got into distributed systems. And,
Hmm.
I'm really into making things that actually work. So the main focus actually for the rest of my career after that first gig, doing a lot of algorithms development, was just tuning up um, large scale data processing jobs and building distributed systems for various different use cases. So that's really how HTTP came up. Was, I'll be real with you, is like my last gig before this whole thing started. I We had this really hacky way of trying to create like encrypted, or basically to encrypt and decrypt data in a somewhat secure way using centralized certificate authorities. And
Hmm.
so you really, if you have some kind of one central component inside a distributed system and all of the nodes in that system have to like wait for this thing to do its stuff for their job, you're basically making everything operate in serial or just like step by step, which
Right,
kind of
right,
defeats the whole purpose.
right.
So I was looking at this whole thing and I was just like, this is a clusterfuck. And I was like, the same shit's happening though, like with Ethereum, because I tried to create something similar. The first incarnation was actually similar to something our chain created. Um, but when I was actually started doing some more research, I realized, hey, like we don't necessarily need to think about these things in terms of smart contracts. We can think about them in terms of protocols themselves, and just using some stuff I've been reading about around recursion schemes and verifiability for programming languages. It was like, oh, there's this huge thing around hylomorphisms and the ability to create verifiable programs for a distributed system. So yeah,
So it kind
that's
of
where it came
came
from.
it kind of came out of like maybe a frustration or a necessity, almost where you were trying to do one thing and you were like, this is just a disaster. I can't do it with this. Like it doesn't work.
If you've been writing code long enough, I mean, everything is a disaster.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's that. That's pretty much it. And also, just I also had some, dreamy, dreamer visions of what decentralization could do.
Right.
I'm definitely, kind of an anarchist, but more on the tie-dye side of things. And so I kind of have this world peace vision of what Ethereum could do. And once I really got down to it, I was like, all right, I think I know how we can actually, enable individuals to take control of their personal sovereignty through technology. And that's really where this is all going.
That's no short order right there. It's definitely something that's needed. And I've got a couple questions here specifically in regards to that later on, because I would love to get into more of that conversation, as I know it's kind of something that, in watching, I mean, I have to be honest, I've watched probably all of the old videos that are on YouTube.
Man.
Yeah, it's probably all of them. And, there's a lot of snippets in there where you're talking about things like personal freedom and sovereignty and the impact that this can have on the world. And it's kind of like this space can get so caught up in the money and not like what's possible because of the technology. And it's really cool to see kind of like where your focus was, like really early on at the inception of this, before it became this like big ROI craze, really, which I think it just goes to show where your head's at in the inception of this whole thing.
I appreciate that. As a fun fact, I have a hard time watching videos of myself. It makes me nervous. I don't like the way my voice sounds, but I just want to caveat here one phrase I say often, with all this shit that I'm doing, I do it for me because I kind of just want to, this is the place I want to live. This is like the world, this vision I have that I think I fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And but if you think the world needs changing, like you just need, truth is you just need therapy. So I mean, this is just sort of me being me, not some fucking. I'm chiseling at it. I'm just like everybody else.
Yep, absolutely. So let's get into a little bit more about yourself personally. And by the way, maybe people don't know this about me. I don't like to watch back my videos as much. It feels like kind of awkward, like hearing yourself talk. It feels kind of awkward sometimes. So I just like put it out there, and I'm like, let it land wherever it lands. Yeah.
All right. Take your word.
Exactly. So if you know that you're in a long day of programming, is there like a certain vibe that you like to create for yourself in your workspace, such as you like certain music playing? How do you get in the zone and like stay focused? Do you have like some incense or a candle? Like what is it that keeps you like really focused and in the zone when you have a long day of programming?
It's a really great question. It depends on what kind of programming. If I'm trying to go really deep and just get something working, or build something with like a very loose design, very low specs.
Mm-hmm.
I have like a playlist on SoundCloud that I like. I pretty much do that, and I have to just box myself to a rhythm. I can't be disturbed. It's almost like, and you have to almost fall into it. You know what I mean? It's like you get started, you bullshit around doing something else, and then something just sort of, I don't know, man, it just sort of takes you through, and you're like, okay, I feel inspired right now after sort of bullshitting on something and kind of another, sub process in my brain. And all of a sudden it's like, all right, I'm going to catch this wave. I'm going to move on with it. So, but I mean, for the most part, I especially just having, originally just starting on this project with, myself and a couple of people. Now having, a large team and several teams. It's more so focusing on just trying to, help everybody understand what's going on, review the code. Probably do more code reviews now than actual programming. Although I think the last really big project I did was a few months ago inside of the generative economics repo. I built a reference implementation. It's fun to fuck around in Python again and use this cool library called Sage. Or was it Sage? The one for algebraic topology. I think that's what it is. But anyway, yeah, I'm there, and doing a lot of stuff actually with recursion schemes. Shout out to Christian up there. We really did a lot of blood, sweat, and tears the last few months getting our arrow. It's like a categorical arrow, which allows us to chain together consensus processes with verifiable, I guess you could call them constraints. Or basically, the input and outputs are verifiable at compile time. So that was a huge one.
Right.
So
And so
hats
you,
off to
you
you,
think you
buddy.
just get into this like zone where it's like you're like messing around with it, and all of a sudden you hit the stride, and next thing you know, it's like you're part of the thing you're building.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's weird. You do kind of blend with it. I mean, it's just the world kind of has to wash away, and you really have to. It's for me, it's more like a feeling thinking.
Right. Very interesting. So I'm interested now. What's on that playlist?
Oh, well, I really like techno music. I like rap music also as well. Used to listen to a lot of like dirty trap when I was a kid. But yeah, I listen to a lot of techno. Who have I been into lately? Just the last like year or so, especially when I was grinding through generative economics. There's a girl named Dr. Rubenstein. She's really cool. But yeah, I mean, it's you really have to dig around. I mean, honestly, Dickles knows more about techno than I ever will. He's OG, man. He was like spinning back in the early '90s and having
No
rave parties
way.
in Portland. Yeah, I'm so sad he didn't talk about that here in your call, but I'll give him the shout out on that one
Please give him a shout
for
out.
real.
Yeah. I heard he has like, the disco lights and smoke machines and everything all
Black
set up.
lights in his apartment, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Party at Diggle's place, apparently.
It's always a party at Dickles' place.
I believe it. So I want to take it a little back here. So in many ways, HTTP is a revolutionary protocol that I'm sure has been quite energy intensive and demanding at times to build. Do you have any daily rituals or practices that you engage in that help you stay sane amidst the high pressure of building a tech company? Any things that you gravitate to?
Yeah, I definitely would not call myself. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think that throughout this whole process, the only way that you can really there's no way to stay grounded. I mean, let's just, accept it. Like you're gonna be flying high in the clouds and not just like, go tripping or something, but just like having to like connect, huge things and just, just hold it together during the stress is just wild. I don't know. I mean, like I grew up Jewish, at least like culturally, and I think I got kind of interested in just learning about it, even from a historical perspective. And but yeah, I mean, I would say like to your point about burning incense or whatnot. Let me give a shout out to the Sword of the Rose in San Francisco, which is what I call a little witch's hut. Especially Nick and Crystal, and it's always interesting to think about how everything happens for a reason. There are things outside of our control. There are energies flowing and mixing all around us, and there are ways and techniques through any different practice that you can pull together in your own smorgasbord to try to stay sane. And I mean, if we're just telling ourselves, just the Buddhist in me, if we're just telling ourselves stories to get by, maybe, but I guess this is my woo way.
Your woo way.
That was so corny. Woo way, it's the Tao. Anyway, never mind.
So, well, what I find interesting is, and I love how realistic and just honest you are with it. It's like there's when you're working at that like high level analytical stuff, like how do you stay grounded? And it's just like, well, you can't really when you're like in that space all that time, right? It's definitely more difficult, at least, to stay grounded. Do you ever, you just mentioned the Buddhist and Taoism. Do you gravitate at all to some of those like Eastern philosophies?
Yeah, and I mean, at least for the last couple of years, I think my interest between cultural Judaism and Buddhism has been really interesting. This has been something I study on the side. I study a lot of stuff. I mean, to your point, I've been very academic like my whole life.
Right.
Growing up, it was like, it was weird. It was like if we had this tradition where like at Seder or something like that, instead of like, games, I don't know, just religious stuff, they would make me learn Yiddish words or like, read Allen Ginsberg poems. So I've always been sort of more about the synthesis than the
Right.
dogma.
Very cool. Very cool. So there's a couple other of these questions that I have in here, and I really want to get into more of that, but I still want to focus on a little bit more about kind of how you got into this place. So I've been poking around at a couple interviews that I've seen that you've done, and I pulled up one of them from 2018 that you did with Altif, and major shout out to Altif. I love that guy. So you did this interview in 2018 where the interviewer asked you, "What is your backstory on how you became a founder?" And you responded, "To be completely honest, I did not set out to become a founder. I just sort of wound up in this position."
Yeah.
Right? Can you kind of elaborate on the wound up part as a founder and how this whole thing kind of just like, well, now I'm here.
I mean, I worked on a couple other projects before I ended up, I mean, Constellation started as a white paper that I had to pitch the original, all of the founders on at some point to pull us together. And, I worked on a couple projects beforehand because, like, I was pretty unfulfilled in my day job. But, like, I think that there's an ego. There's, like, a image to being this big macher kind of, I don't know, tech visionary founder type guy. And that's just not me, man. Like, I love what I do. I love building my stuff, but it's just in order to make this dream come alive, this is the way to do it. And this time and place. So, I mean, I do anything for my baby. I think about Constellation as my firstborn son. So if I need to put on this tech founder hat, put on my burger flipper hat, I'll do whatever it takes.
Right. So I would imagine you'd probably, prefer to kind of stay outside of more of the like, media aspects and things that kind of entail with being, a founder, because that's really, it seems like not what you're actually, passionate about. And, some people can certainly get wrapped up in things like that.
Yeah. I mean, look, I mean, I'll be real with you. Like, I think that I need to get out there more. And I'm now taking more time being here as well to get out there.
It massively.
It's a pleasure to be here. I mean, this was a really special thing, and I would miss it. But yeah, I mean, my focus now is trying to help. Just the term they say is evangelize, but like, just getting it out there. But at the end of the day, I made a promise to token holders, to everyone, to build this technology and to, just make this dream come alive and give it a life of its own. And so that is my priority always.
Absolutely. And I think it goes without saying that everyone, myself included, are incredibly appreciative of the blood, sweat, and tears that it's taken just to get to this point, right? I mean, it's truly incredible, and I know we're all very excited about this thing, and in a lot of ways we do kind of rally behind what you and the team are bringing forth into this space. We really, and this is me just being really honest with you, we really believe in you guys, and we're excited for what you guys are doing. So you touched on.
It really means. I want to say really quickly that it really does mean a lot every time anybody says that. So, literally, in the darkest hours, when people say that they believe in you, it's like the only thing that will pull you through to figure shit out that hasn't been done before, or unfuck yourself. So, please keep it coming. Because that's what makes me believe in me.
Yeah, I'll be sure to send you a weekly tweet from now on.
It helps.
Yeah, I'll send it, trust me. So You touched really briefly on the time that you spent with NASA at SETI. And for those who don't know what SETI is the institute is an institute which deals with the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Can you tell me about what your time was like there and what you did?
It was really cool. I mean, well, first off, I just want to say it was really cool. I will also just say, like, I was a nobody. Like, I was what's called an REU intern. So, like, I was like 19, I think, at the time when I got the job. And it was my first job. And so it was my first real professional programming gig ever. And I think it was more so like a summer camp than a real job, actually. But what was awesome is that it was my first taste of what academia and research was like, as well as being in the quasi-technology space, because they had a lot of people from the commercial space industry there. This was, I believe, before SpaceX was really a thing, and there were a lot of super contenders. So I kind of got to see what that was like. I kind of got to see what these colloquia were like, and the academic sparring, and the huge egos, or I guess fragile confidences of individuals, whatever the side of that coin you want to pick. But yeah, scratch the top with. But no, it was really cool. And I mean, just I want to thank everybody who I worked with. I mean, I'm sure I was doughy. I mean, I was kind of an idiot and probably difficult to work with, but thank you everyone for dealing with me and giving me an opportunity. I hope thing that I built amounted to anything. Thank you to my mentor. Thank you to mentors. I had two dudes, and I can't remember both of their names right now, which I'm really sorry, but you can look it up online. Their names are right underneath that webpage. And yeah.
I actually saw a really young photo of you that is still
10 years ago.
Yeah, on the website. I was almost like, is that Wyatt? The hair was a little less flowy.
I don't know, dude. I was cool. I was still a teenager, man.
A young Wyatt. So, do you feel that, with your time at SETI, do you feel that distributed systems could one day be used to do something like communicate with other forms of intelligent life?
Well, I do remember that. Well, honestly, I really wasn't hip to distributed systems at the time. I was still more focused on algorithms, and just trying to really just do what's called linear programming and trying to implement discrete solutions for these problems. But it was, I think, the summer that SETI at. And I remember that was really big. Something I learned about training data, how we can actually try to use individuals as, I guess, what's now known as Kim Turk from Amazon, get them to actually create positive test sets or correct ones that we can train against. But yeah, it was many years before I was Buster Fucks.
So, kind of keeping along with this spiritual philosophical vibe that we're on here, I've noticed a common theme kind of amongst the whole team here, that you're all very deeply spiritual or philosophical people, and you specifically are infamously quoted by the community all over the place, from an older video of you saying, if you want to solve a problem, the smartest thing you can do is copy what nature did. How did you arrive at that conclusion?
It's great marketing, I'll tell you what. I still stand by that statement. I mean, Constellation, in this monadic way of turning consensus into an execution context. Sorry if I'm too jargon, but Look, I mean, you guys, you might remember Ryle. Ryle's also back, by the way.
Yep.
Hi, Ryle. Shout out to Ryle.
Shout out to Ryle.
We used to work on this. I was working on this project many years ago called Big Fish, where I was just kind of inspired about how different processes and sub-processes could be, defined for programming in such a way, or a distributed system, such that it reduces overhead in communication. It was really just sort of this kind of concept of kind of like how entropy inside of ecology seeks to create complex structures, or I guess try to reduce the complexity of some type of a process to make it more efficient. And that's really where this whole thing kind of came out of, was just applying concepts in entropy to distributed system design. So yeah, I mean, I don't mean to get too heady. Like, I worked on that with a writer at the time, and I think we did write a puff piece around it, but I mean, it's a very eloquent way of sort of describing where the inspiration for the architecture came from.
Right, from that like universal natural world almost.
Yeah.
So has your understanding of nature and universal mathematics in that sense had an impact on not just, your work with distributed systems, but maybe also in your daily life?
Yeah, I mean, I think about this stuff a lot, especially in terms of like, I mean, that's really where my own personal philosophy comes from, that you can truly understand the universe by understanding its mechanics. It's funny, I named our domain-specific language Babel, kind of after the story of Babel, because like, it's sort of meant to be a way of communicating with what is, as opposed to like to try and build something that helps the universe. And that kind of that's an interpretation on that story. And I tried to embody that philosophy with what I created and sort of the research that I do. And yeah, it's more sort of understand, respect, and share, rather than to be this big mother.
Absolutely. So I guess that leads me to another question, which is, a lot of people use maybe like whether it's certain religious texts or practices or different, esoteric philosophies to gain better understanding of like their place in the world. Do you kind of view math as something like that, similar to?
100%. That's absolutely cool. Why I keep doing it. There was a time in my life where I was very, very sick. I didn't really know what I had. I actually had a very advanced case of Lyme's disease. That was neuropathy in my peripheral nervous system. And I just, in order to get through that, maybe it was escapism, I don't know, but it just helped me feel small enough to where those problems didn't matter.
Wow. So you used math as a way to gain a better understanding of just the overall bigger picture of life, or made that kind of just like fade away?
Yeah, or just to almost feel insignificant, to feel like it's just one experience. Infinite, that it's sometimes when you don't feel like the world is resting on your shoulders, in a different way, it's a lot easier to come to terms with being dusted.
Very, very true. Have you ever gotten into things like sacred geometry?
Yeah, I think it's some heady shit online. I mean, it's really cool. I from a historical standpoint, if you look at some stuff like Sanskrit, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone out there, I apologize, but I do believe that some of these different diagrams are actually ways of communicating architecture diagrams for building structures. So they're almost like a way of encoding like knowledge of engineering and design in an artistic pattern, so that people could do things like build rudimentary structures. I do think there's some really cool about like ancient civilizations and like the Vedas, as well as there's some really cool stuff in there on binary arithmetic that's like too uncanny to be,
Random.
thought of. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to get into it because you know, I mean, I don't want to go down some like Grant Hancock kind of guy, Grant Hancock, but I think it's really cool and really interesting, believe me. But like,
Right.
that's not my wheelhouse. I mean, I read it for entertainment because it's fun.
Yeah, it's funny you brought him up because I've looked at a bunch of his stuff and kind of like, it's interesting you bring up the Vedas and that Sanskrit. Like, I was really big into it from the Egyptian perspective for a while. I like went down that whole rabbit hole. Yeah, got really into it there. But yeah, let's before we take a journey off into the woods, let's kind of bring it back on track. So I have an interesting question here. So, what is something that's really off-brand that you love doing that's not exactly in line with this idea of being, the techie mathematician? What are some other passions that you have besides technology and math?
Dude, I honestly am really a Luddite. Like, I have a super old school, like, I'm never doing the facial rec stuff. Fuck off. You're not.
Yeah.
The thumbprint's too much already. But like, I really like gardening. I've always had a green thumb. I've had plants everywhere. If I'm not around plants enough, I get really just wigged out and depressed and shit. My mom actually is really wants to get into farming, and so we have a place up here, UP in Michigan, that's on the water, but also like a fair amount of space, and so yeah, I mean that's kind of it. I mean, I love that. I mean, I read a lot of stuff just around. I don't know if you can call it philosophy. I mean, dude, when I was coming up with even just some applications for Constellation, I read a lot of Hegel, the concepts of reality and truth. Yeah, I think I'm a little bit too airy-fairy for my own good, but I'm an INFP, so I guess that kind of goes with it. I mean, it really is horoscopes for STEM majors, right?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I really like to be in the water as well. I try to, if I can, I'd like to get much body of water every day.
That's how you get some balance there. I mean, it is that, and I don't know if balance is the right word, right? Because it's like, I mean, you said it early on, it's like really difficult to stay grounded, which I find, like polar opposite, like tech, doing research, and then, but I love to garden. And I love plants. And I think that maybe sounds like a little bit of how you kind of help even that out a little bit. So are there any particular things that you love to plant, or any particular plant? Like, I have a snake plant next to me that I like. There's something about those that I just absolutely love.
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of herbs. Also, I forgot to mention I cook a lot, like almost every day. I like cook for my girlfriend and I cook. And that's really my biggest meditative passion. So mostly herbs. Who's cool. And yeah, I mean, I always try to grow things that have some kind of like either medicinal quality, like a neem plant, or like just lots of different stuff wherever they grow. In San Francisco, I have a little bed all around the windows, and in my backyard, I was, doing stuff.
Right.
But yeah, it's just sort of being out there and, feeling like giving life to something kind of empowers you. I mean, it's definitely more of a, it's, it's a little dose of existentialism. I mean, let's all get high on existentialism. Yeah, it helps though. It's fun.
Right.
Meaning is fun.
Right.
So seeing things come alive gives me meaning.
Right. Well, I was going to say it probably gives you like that extra piece of like purpose. Like, I'm taking care of this thing. Right. It's like this thing needs me to like keep going.
Well, not that. I mean, I don't want this thing to need me to keep going. I want it to keep going on its own. I mean, it's the fact that something can keep going on its own that just makes me believe that it's these same things as company, like having a life of its own is really the greatest gift that I have ever asked for. I save bugs a lot for the same reason. I'm just like, no, give you a shot. You know what I mean? Even if it doesn't understand. It's just like, it's my little dose of existentialism for the day. A good turn, if you will. I'm an Eagle Scout for what that's worth.
You're an Eagle Scout?
I keep it around. Yeah.
No
way. I have my card on me.
Dude,
I'm proud of that, actually.
It's so funny. One of my best friends growing up was an Eagle Scout or is an Eagle Scout. Amazing. That's incredible. My best friend, one of my best friends growing up, is an Eagle Scout, and it's like one of his proudest things.
I'm proud of it. Hell yeah.
And he's actually a doctor, and it's like, but
Nice.
there's something about being an Eagle Scout that's like one of his like most proudest things. So it's really funny that like of all things, like this is, by the way, I'm an Eagle Scout. I think that's really cool. A kind of a synergy that I see here is like, building a distributed system that has like some form of ability to be actually useful, and then growing plants that I can also use in something like my cooking. I that's an interesting synergy there of like creating to for purpose almost.
Well, when you're building distributed systems, you're always trying to make use of data packets that are already going over network anyway. So I guess that's kind of killing, saving 9 bugs with 1 stone. Or more bugs, whatever.
Right. So I got an interesting question here, and it kind of relates to what it's been like for you throughout this whole process. Were there any personal challenges that you've had to overcome throughout your journey of building Constellation?
Yeah, I think that making sure that my family was just in a good place, which I think is something that has really become a happy end. I don't really like to try and be a victim, man. Like, everybody's got their own shit, but like at the end of the day, we're measured by our ability to just keep going, man. So
So is your family something that has been in the back of your mind a lot this whole time?
Yeah, I mean, there's risks, to start a company to, kind of it all go belly up, and it's not like I was really saving for years of this shit. So
right,
just wanted to make sure that my mom and my cat take care of. And, yeah, they are. So we have a happy ending. I guess that's all I'm saying on that.
Right.
Here in the UP.
Nice. So you're spending some good time with your family now up there?
Yeah.
Nice. Love to hear that. Yeah, I'm very, very family oriented person myself. It's like my whole world, honestly. So I guess kind of not too unrelated. Do you have any mentors that have helped you along the way? And what is something that you've learned from them that has a significant impact on your personal development?
I think that I've had the weirdest mentors ever. Like, maybe not necessarily folks in my space, although maybe one dude, Bro Wagner, if you're out there, listen to those things. He was an NLP dude who taught me about knowledge graphs.
Interesting.
A long time ago. Yeah, he did some stuff on that when we were first getting, or when I was first. I'll tell that story when I was. God, I used to live in the backyard of a hacker house for a few days, and eventually I found a sublet. And Earl been there. He had rooms since college up at Berkeley, and we kibitzed, and it was really helpful in the beginning to have that perspective. But like, I think just maybe even Nick and Crystal I've mentioned from the shop, from Sword and Rose, now down to even just like my friends. Like, it's some random dude I met in Costa Rica once who explained to me, like, people go to temples or churches or establishments to try and they build these things to try and rub in some kind of majesty, but like all you need to do is just step outside. Like, random statements like that just don't leave you.
Yep.
I don't know. I think that's what I consider.
Right. So do you think like a lot of a lot of your motivation actually has been maybe like the people around you and the friends that you've met and connected with along the way.
It's really weird. It's like I did this whole thing because I just wanted to make friends, which is true. Like I just felt like I didn't fit in anywhere. So at some point, you just sort of accept that you don't fit in. You try to create a world where you do.
Right. Well, I feel like you've done a very good job, a very good job at that, to say the least. And I know you have a lot of friends and a lot of support that would show up for you any day. And for what you've done for everyone else, it's really quite impactful, all the work that you've done.
Yeah. Thank you.
So really, and this is a random question, and I like to ask this question because I think it shows like this is one area maybe where like I'd want to have some change in, or one thing that I wish I had just to make things easier for me. If you could wake up tomorrow having gained one ability, what would it be?
Telekinesis.
All right. Telekinesis it is.
That'd be super dope.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have dreams about that. It's like those are my favorite dreams. It's like I figured it out. I don't know why I always found that kind of cool. But like 1000x.
So you wish I had more of those like super. So is
that not the right answer?
No. But see, that's why I love asking it, because I think it's, first of all, there's no right answer. Second of all, it's like I find that interesting. So like, and I was talking to Altif, and obviously, Diggle's brought up magic, and is this like sci-fi space world something that like you've always had like maybe a fascination with, like with the stars and the universe? Like I see a lot of like universal themes going on here.
Well, I came up with the name actually for Constellation after a really weird event. We did this. Altif remembers. Altif, if you're listening, you'll remember that God, we did this like a workshop. I'm not even gonna tell the whole story, but like, yeah, it was almost just like I came up with this description for like how do you get like servers in a distributed to cooperate. It just kind of made sense to describe it in terms of gravity. So I mean, I guess you can copy nature for everything. Copy nature for marketing.
Well, it's done a great job. Yeah, it's done a very great job, for sure. The nature space theme, and I also think the space theme, just the idea of a constellation, from like you're saying, like a marketing, like visual perspective of things like coming, like individual pieces coming together to create something, I think fits very, very well with what you guys are actually doing, right? So, looking back on the last 4 years with Constellation, is there any one particular moment for you that stands out the most, whether good or bad? Just like comes to mind one moment in the last 4 years that you were like, wow, that was really something.
It doesn't really have a lot to do with Constellation, but when I was writing generative economics, my girlfriend's dad was dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it really affected. It's funny, I was probably the least close with him out of everybody, but it still makes me choked up. I mean, it's hard not to.
Yeah.
I think throughout this whole journey, being in that moment just made me realize what is life about.
Mm-hmm.
And this was before I wrote the economics section on it, and I got to like elements, loop vectors, or just read it. It's a lot of shit, but I had it out there like a textbook just so I could build stuff with it, and just made me really realize like it just inspired me to go the extra mile to not just make my own calculus or solve cross-chain liquidity, but just like to make this economic theory that where the goal is to live life for the reasons I don't know why we're here.
Very, very interesting. Yeah. And it's interesting. So I've done as much reading of that paper as I possibly could, based on the elements in there, but I can see kind of just understanding the very broad overview of generative economics and how that relates to the network, how that can kind of be applied to this like bigger meaning of life. And I can see that, during that time when, you were going through that situation with your family there, how writing that, but also experiencing that had some form of like synergy that led to maybe a new understanding for you.
I don't think I would have come up with that second part about the economic theory if I hadn't. And, I dedicated it to him. And, my grandfather taught me a lot about just people, like, civil rights and stuff, which he was part of in his career. And, so those are those two people I dedicated it to.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I'm very happy to hear that part of it now, because when you open up the page there, that you have the dedication, but to hear the backstory now behind that, it adds a whole new layer to it there. So thank you for sharing that. Let's take it back now to a little bit about the way, I guess, the crypto space works. So, different projects throughout crypto can sometimes have a very, tribalistic nature sometimes, right?
Yeah.
What has it been like for you as someone bringing something really new and unique into this space?
I try to ignore it, dude. It's just like it's hard enough to do what I'm doing than to like read people's comments on the internet. Like, I still scroll Twitter because I like stuff, but like I don't read my notifications. Sorry if people who at me all the time. It's too much. It's just too. It makes me nervous.
No, of course, and not only that, but it's like the other part of that is you have a lot of people commenting that don't know what they're talking about, which I'm sure you have experienced quite a lot of. So I don't blame you for that. It's kind of just like focus on the thing that you need to focus on, and just like everything else, just let it fall away.
There's a lot of noise out there, man.
Social
media is weird, dude. It's kind of poison. I don't know. I don't get it.
Do you not like social media?
I don't have a Facebook. Like, I don't do Instagram. I like dank memes.
I think we can. Oh, there was one meme that I think someone sent you not too long ago that you even responded to, and you were like, I think you even said dank meme. Oh, I really wish I knew.
Like me.
Yeah, that was your exact response. Someone sent you a meme or tagged you in a meme, and your exact response was dank meme. I'm gonna have to link the tweet now in like the comment section to give people the context.
I'd love to see it again.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was dank.
I'm gonna pull it up because not right now, but I'll put it in the comment section for everyone to see, and I'm gonna make a note for it right now. Dank meme. So, of all the different use cases that are made possible because of the hypergraph, is there anything that particularly excites you, or that you're wishing comes to like a full expression, or that that you hope people gravitate to?
I do, but I think it's really technical. I think what's going to be really cool about it is the ability for people to create decentralized mini subnets of the internet that help verify truth for whatever that means. And I think that is going to hopefully connect all of the weirdos like me.
Did you always have like an interest in the internet or how the internet works, or did this kind of just come like you had the idea and you're like, this could be used for the internet?
I'll be real with you, man. I never really liked computers, and I also still computers. I just kind of got into programming because I was good at it, and it helped me pass my practical things and to get my physics degree. And so I had this kind of a spirit. It's like They're like my family. It's like you don't really get to choose, but you just get what you get. And I just had this ability to program or like speak computer jargon.
Right. Interesting. So, and kind of building off this, more of the hypergraph theme. And this is a question that I also asked Matthias, and I want to ask you this too, because I feel like everyone kind of has their own like unique understanding or way that they're viewing kind of these decentralized systems. In a perfect world, let's say everything just went exactly as planned, right? Where or what do you see this network doing after like 5 years? Like, what do you think like the most grand vision or crescendo of this network looks like?
I think that there's going to be, at least this thing is talking truth.
Mm-hmm.
At least
So you think
verifiable truth in terms of what Heigl said.
So you think it all goes back to being able to have truth? And I think there was a video where you said you mentioned history written in real time.
Exactly. That, and also just the ability to synthesize different viewpoints into some type of a verifiable collective reality, almost like a filter or like a lens through which you can see the world, that removes the ability for powerful figures to gaslight you.
Very
or
interesting.
even figures in your own life. All this came from issues I've had with being in circumstances where people tried to gaslight me. That's why consensus matters, because consensus is how we actually try to. That's closest we can come to truth.
Right. And so having something that could actually reach consensus as life is happening would be that thing that verifies the truth of a situation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's really interesting. And ironically, this next question, I'm going to quote you from Hypergraph Hour 14. So we're going back in time a little bit here, taking a little journey. So you said in Hypergraph Hour 14, this is the opportunity to create our own marketplace and our own world, which directly reflects our morals and our values. And then you concluded by saying that this is a ticket to freedom. Can you go into more detail on what ways you see the hypergraph creating this more honest or moral world, and what that might even play out like?
It is honest data for a connected future, after all.
I guess so, right?
Look, I don't want to like pick sides or something in like some highly political environment, but like regardless of what you believe in, I think everybody can agree that like the media is full of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't have an ability to communicate reality to one another, then someone is pulling the strings in our ability to act and live our lives. Like this is once and for all removing like the hope saying you couldn't learn to read and write 1,000 years ago or the earth was flat. I mean, this is truly connecting people together once and for all in some sort of a collective awareness that, I mean, truth is freedom. Freedom isn't necessarily, it's not your friend. It's not good or bad. It might kick you in the ass sometimes. It might save your life, but it is what it is.
Absolutely. So I find that really amazing. And I mean, I agree with you. And yeah, there's no need to get down the political side taking, but I would agree with you 100% that there is a lot of gaslighting, there is a lot of untruth and manipulation and lying, and you have a lot of powerful players playing that game unbeknownst to many, and to have a system that can come along and kind of take that away. I mean, we have no idea what society can look like, if we had something that was able to filter that out.
Well, hopefully that's the world where I fit in.
Oh, I think I have a feeling we're on the right track here. So, with all the ups and downs and stressors that are associated with building a tech company, what is it that exactly motivates you to keep going, even when it feels like you're kind of on the end of your rope here?
Promise I'm not gonna cry in this interview. I don't know why. I was just that one last question thinking about Jen was savvy, but in
Also,
that moment,
if we need to take a break, we can totally take a
it's
break.
fine. No, please.
All
It's
right.
but I as you can see, man, I'm really not an entrepreneur, dude. Like
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is sort of something I had to do to heal my words. When people tell me that they believe in me and how much that our shared vision matters to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about me. When it's not about me, it doesn't it becomes easier. When you're small, you can just blend in with something greater than yourself.
So you think a lot of the community and the people that are quite honestly looking at you, right? Like for the last point that we brought up, the implications that something like this can have for a more honest world are so great. So when you see people looking at you, right, and they're saying, hey Wyatt, like we believe in you, like that's the thing that's like I just can tune everything out because this is more important than me.
It's weird. Sometimes you listen to other people more than you listen to yourself, but sometimes it can enslave you, sometimes it can free you. And in those times, guys, those nice things that you've said have quite literally been what pulled me out of a dark place or made this
Hmm.
possible. So
Hmm.
if you're listening right now, I just want you to know it's because of you.
Well, I know we're beyond grateful for this thing. I mean, and I'll speak, very personally now. you know, I and I was shocked, quite honestly, how well accepted I was into this community. I haven't been around for years, but like I decided to start talking about DAG. I read the white paper and I was like, wow. I was really blown away, and I've been in crypto for years, so like I understood crypto pretty well. But when I saw what you guys were doing, it was just like a no-brainer for me. Then I got involved with the community, and I was like fully brought in by the community, and it gave me like I've made friends. I've made friends that I can call and talk to. Like it's given me an outlet to also feel like I'm a part of something. It's done a lot for me personally, and if it wasn't for your ideas and what you guys decided to do a few years ago, like a very large chunk of my life right now wouldn't be what it is. And I know that I can speak for a lot of people, and I don't want to get too emotional here now too.
That's the thing that actually made me cry, I swear. It
Yeah,
means a lot, man,
I
from
gotta
you
pull it
guys.
together because I'm gonna get choked up. Oh man. Yeah, so I just, I want to say, personally, it's done a lot for me too. So I personally can't thank you enough. Um, it's been really great. It's been really great. So man, all right, what are we gonna do? Oh man. I don't think I've ever gotten emotional on a on a call before. Here we go. I've got a question here, and then I think we can kind of wrap it up because this is kind of along the theme of what we've been talking for, and then we can wrap it up here. I don't know how much time we're at. Oh man, an hour and almost an hour and a half here. Champion. So in a lot of ways, this project is your legacy, and it's ultimately an opportunity to build the world you want to live in. What does it feel like knowing you've created something that could create an entirely new world? Was that the ultimate goal? Is the hypergraph something that view as absolutely necessary given current circumstances? What does that feel like to know that this could rewrite everything? Maybe.
I mean, when you're in the mines, it doesn't feel like that. And I mean, it doesn't feel like that right now. I mean, I don't think about it like trying to change the world. Like I said before, if you need to change, if you think the world needs changing, you just need therapy, man. But like, dude, everybody has a part to play in this cosmic drama, and everything is happening for a reason, exactly as it's meant to. And this was just me being me.
You being you. Well, it's an absolutely beautiful part of the play. And I know I know we're all very excited for what the future holds. And not to keep beating the, I'm grateful for what you've done drum here, but I am. So what do you say we pull it together and land the plane? Yeah, bring it all down. I think I got to go spend some time outside with some plants now.
Right on.
All right. Well, this has been a absolutely wonderful conversation. I feel, super grateful and honored to have spent this time with you. As you're sitting in one of the most beautiful backdrops that I think I've ever seen anyone have for an interview. Quite honestly,
Gallery Coffee in Unison, Michigan.
It's beautiful. I'm sure maybe I don't want to give away your spot too much. Next thing you know, you'll have someone sitting at that desk waiting for you.
Hey, if you bring in business, come on by. Like, shout out to my local spots. Thank you so much for being here. And I just want to say real quick that the thing I am the most grateful for this entire journey is all.
Yeah, absolutely. And the the feeling is very mutual. So, and I also just wanted to flash really quickly in case people didn't know. I've been wearing my Constellation community sent in tie, ladies and gentlemen. So this one I figured was the appropriate choice for the man himself. Alrighty, everyone. That about does it for here on the Digital Dive. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Wyatt, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you, everybody.
Later, everyone.
Soon, all right.
Bye.